And now we are getting into our active weather coverage. Why a few degrees can make a difference in terms of the precipitation we'll see tomorrow. We'll have all the details coming up right here. We're talking about freezing rain, and this is sort of a little look at our atmosphere. This is what's happening right now. So when that raindrop falls, it's likely to freeze on contact as freezing rain, or up here, up in cottage country, it's going to be falling as some snow. So this is what we're looking at. Around 0 degree, very little ice accretion, but when we look at -1 to -2, this is where significant ice accretion could take place. Not likely to see it on the roads, but on your car, on trees, power lines. We're not talking about an ice storm here, but the potential to see some freezing is certainly there. Now, one thing I do want to mention, as this rain starts to come into the GTA through the morning hours, we are looking at a pocket of some pretty heavy rain for the GTA, and that's actually good news, because the heavier the rain falls, the less likely we are to see some accretion, some ice accretion throughout the GTA. But this is a snapshot here of Wednesday morning, the freezing rain risk. You can see it lessens throughout the afternoon and evening, and this is how much rain we are looking at for the GTA, around 10 to 20 millimeters.
At the very least, if we don't, then your water bill is going to be a lot higher, right, if you want those Mayflowers. Let's take a look here at how things play out. The model brings in precipitation this afternoon, maybe through the Niagara region, some light rain, but this is when that freezing rain really moves in. And it could be mixed precipitation, some snow to the north, Rachel.
Yeah, and we'll have a full analysis on this freezing rain throughout the show, so I want you to stay with us. I'm going to say this is the first good soaking of the spring.
Yeah, absolutely, and that helps wash away a lot of that sand and salt from the winter season. Like salt, but getting there, not as much as the East Coast, but fresh snow has been falling today, of course, Rachel, in Regina.
Yeah, yesterday that snow was in Calgary, and Deb was joining us, of course, on the morning show, and there's just a teeny snowpack in Calgary now, so likely to see the same thing going on throughout southern Saskatchewan and into southern Manitoba. When we talk about who can see the most snow, 2 to 5 centimeters.
Yeah, not too bad, but nobody likes to see it this time of year. I think the jokes were funny over the weekend with, you know, hoppy holidays and Merry Easter, and
it was true.
It was like Christmas. You could sing Christmas carols. Okay, let's take a look ahead for the west. You're going to stay dry, Vancouver, with high pressure, basically the name of the game, Rachel, until Friday. Then you finally get wet down south.
Yeah, now let me take you over to Halifax, where we're still at this strength this late in the game.
I couldn't agree more. You and I have both flown out there a few times this year to cover storms, and I remember what it looked like 2, 3, 4 months ago. Our hearts are going out to you. I know you've got a lot to melt. Let's hope that it's not going to be too abrupt, so we don't get the big bump in temperatures all at once.
Exactly.
I'll look ahead for the east. Yeah, we've got that freezing rain, severe weather set up, big cold front down through the states, likely a tornado type of day setting up for Wednesday into Thursday.
And then, unfortunately for Atlantic Canada, to the end of the week, you're getting into some more of the active weather. Dependent on your temperatures, well, that depends what kind of precipitation you'll see, but snow to the north. Great advice, Nate. And you know what? I'm sure so many people are just sick of it and done with winter. The snow moves out throughout the day today, and you're left with these temperatures for the evening. Yeah, it's going to be a cool one tomorrow as well. I'll take you into Hamilton, Ontario now. It looks really nice. It was a gloomy day yesterday. Today, sort of a similar setup. Temperatures have the potential to hit just about seasonal. We'll see some rain just skirt to the south of Ontario, but this is what we're bracing for. This next system that's going to move through, and this here brings a big potential to see freezing rain. What's happening here is we have warm air aloft, freezing temperatures at the surface, and as that raindrop falls, it could freeze right on contact. So a very slippery setup out on the road, so not a good idea. System that brought snow to you throughout Calgary, now off into Saskatchewan, and it will move into Manitoba as well. As we look at some of the hardest hit areas with this snow, 2 to 5 centimeters, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's enough for April, right? And then we'll also have this cold front passing through on Wednesday, and this is bringing snow to the extreme north of Saskatchewan. As we look at the temperatures, okay, things are going to be getting better as a ridge of high pressure starts to develop here. Look at that warm air that's starting to filter in across the prairies. The warm air also making its way into the Great Lakes region. Looks to be more on Thursday, but with the price of some active weather. Look at this. This is a severe weather statement stateside. We could see tornadoes along with this, and then that moisture moves into the Great Lakes. Thanks for keeping it here with us at the Weather Network. Rachel Schoutsen, Jacqueline Whittle, and we are talking about snow for so many Canadians.
Again, yes, it's true. Right along this pesky stationary front, still looking at 2 to 5 centimeters to the prairies.
Because this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with below freezing temperatures at the surface, but warm air aloft, and this spells out freezing rain.
That's exactly right. A lot of people think freezing rain, oh, you must have snow, you must have a messy winter system. Yeah, you do, but really all you do need is that moisture overrunning colder air at the surface. So if we look look at our surface temperatures, this line may not actually depict where our 0 degree mark is, but degrees probably won't freeze on contact because 0, as Dr. Doug put it to me earlier, is also the melting temperature and the freezing temperature, right?
Good point.
So it's almost kind of like nil. But if you're into that -1, -2 range, you get significant ice secretion. So that's one way of looking at it, Rachel, of course, like looking at it topically, but let's look at it vertically in the atmosphere.
Great.
This is called a Schoutsen diagram, and also known as the tephrogram here in Canada. It shows us a vertical profile of the atmosphere. So if we think of this line representing 0 degrees, we have temperatures at the surface below 0. Temperatures as they go up in the atmosphere are warming. That's never a good sign. Usually our temperatures cool with height. So if you imagine a snowflake or even rain coming down from above, they start to warm. That's going to melt that snowflake or keep that rain, certainly rain, but then boom, freezes back on contact. A messy mix. Most of this, of course, will be outside of the immediate downtown Toronto area.
Yeah, and this is a little look at who's going to be seeing what. So we see snow to the north, but this pink section here, this is where we could get into the freezing rain. I do want to point out one positive in this, though. Throughout the city of Toronto, we are expecting a pretty heavy amount of rain through the morning. And the heavier the rain falls, the less chance we are to see of ice accretion.
That's right. We were talking to Dr. Doug once again about that earlier. The heavier that rain, it's hard for it to stick to anything,
exactly.
Right? But you're right. Outside of the city, definitely the chance of maybe 5 millimeters of accretion.
And I also want to mention, not likely to see the roads freezing. You're more likely to almost hydroplane tomorrow than be on an icy road.
Be careful with that on that note. Taking a look at Wednesday, yeah, we do have a big storm. It's the same one that'll move in for Ontario that could spawn some severe weather stateside.
And when we talk about that severe weather, well, this time of year, yeah, this is when it really all starts coming back into play. I'm Rachel Schoutsen, and right now we're going to take a look at the severe weather threat for this week. I want you to notice all of this moisture right here. This could be spawning some tornadoes stateside. The moisture is going to move up into Ontario, and this could be freezing rain for many people. We'll break down those stories coming up, but I want you to look at some of the threats here. So this is put out by the Storm Prediction Center, and basically highlighted in yellow here is a slight risk to see some very severe cells that could possibly be forming tornadoes. A slight risk is still quite large here. And then when we look at the enhanced risk, well, you can see that's closer into Illinois and Missouri there. We'll take you now back into Canada. The weather was looking pretty poor for the Easter long weekend. A little snowpack on the ground in Calgary, but things are looking a lot better, especially in Alberta. The snow now has transitioned and it's down in through Saskatchewan now. 2 to 5 centimeters of snow at some of the higher ends, let's say, but a dry and a clear day throughout Alberta. This is a little look at the snowfall forecast here. Places like Regina and Brandon, you're going to be in the higher ends. All right, I want to show you this piece of video now. Look at that. A scene like this, probably not as severe, but a similar setup is happening. Essentially, what we have in place right now is warm air aloft and cool air at the surface. This is some rain that's going to pass through overnight, but pre-dawn Wednesday, we're seeing a lot of moisture moving through southwestern Ontario, and look at that heavy blob of rain that's going to move through the GTA. Now, we do have freezing at the surface. As this rain falls, it is likely a lot of it could form into some freezing rain. But the good news is, because of the heavy amounts of rain that are falling, it's not likely that we will see a big icy kind of patch here. Not likely that the roads will freeze. We could see some accretion, though, on the trees. 10 to 20 millimeters of rain. Now, the snow story out in the Atlantic, that is all coming to an end. High pressure is coming into place, and Wednesday is looking like a better day for those of you in the Maritimes.